Try they might, the U.S. government can't leverage a notch for the truth about me to be allowed, what was done to me to be allowed, so that I can safely elope to the Playboy Mansion of books and assisted living that I should be entitled to. We live into a gangster comparative universe, and feeling guilty doesn't translate into constructive action. And the root of the evil that I am perceived as is the fact that growing up, most of my girlfriends had to figure how to keep sex harmless. And this makes me anathema to the gloat of a play that they're putting on from the days of the Carousel Club. Conspiracy of the 60s that resulted in the Texas school book being performed by a girl named Gail Burstyn and her entourage, which is led and organized by Roger Waters and Ringo Starr. Now, in describing what happened in my other tapes, I don't want you to think that I share the sentiment that the script is somehow, the idea is somehow genius. It's not. It's a piece of bunk. It's an ugly piece of bunk. But the way that it was produced and stage managed certainly shows a great deal of creative power in terms of studio leverage and literary understanding of the primary ideological forces that shape our political world. So it's clever in some ways. Now, Joe Biden was sniffing little girls' hair as a statement that his family car show was an alliance with Tony Serby, whose gang, the Pittmans, gassed me and turned it into a whoop it up by having a seven beauty seduce me as a child. So Trump of blackmail, inciting the Ku Klux Klan and the NAACP, and embracing the idea that cars were a metaphor for women. And Biden's embrace of the war criminal Bibi shows that he has been involved in this Delaware dirty deal, assassinating JFK. Jack Rubenstein was an Israeli, Jack Ruby, allied to Gail Raven with the same psychiatrist as Charlie Manson. So Manson was probably an adaptation of Mansion for Playboy Mansion. And man's son is executed, the moron's child, as a symbol for abortion. So it's a Black Sabbath ritual of sorts. It's important to remember the times that we're talking about where this came to fruition. Segregation of schools meant exclusion from draft exemptions. So segregation was partially about cannon fodder. And the MAGA, Make America Great Again cult, DeSantis and Toon, all cooperated with Yoko Ono in Hitler's revenge attack. With the script where John Lennon play acted that he was killed, they actually evacuated him. And Reagan play acted that he was shot. He actually faked that. And they used fake news media to tell his story, that they said the story is more valuable than JFK. It's like people who collect Nazi stamps because they're fascinated with Hitler. And they pulled it off. I mean, veterans got priority housing. So black people who were exempted from school wanted priority housing, and it got into sort of a raft in the Medusa situation, people climbing over each other. Biden limited access to respectable, humanized planet living where that they're shaping towards sustainable planet, humanizing the planet for sustainability, while engaging in the tax and spend policies. The Democratic Party was heavily involved in the Vietnam War, and they got rid of the people from the Democratic Party who weren't. So, what Rosa Clemente pulled with Ono in murdering Cersei and replacing her with Greta Thunberg was a European state of the claim with the help of COVID to the sustainable future. I have removed from play my offer to team up with Greta for the simple reason that she failed to answer my question. Did she know in advance about COVID? Or is she a dacoit of this monstrous circus that comes out of Prince Charles, calling itself Gale Burston and so on? It was Queen Elizabeth's last will. So they stake a claim to the moral high ground. And when we look at the franchise of operations, one of the things that the Rolling Stones demonstrated with Two Virgins, Pussy Bowl, and Donald Trump was the alliance of the fundamentalist tripartite system that was put together by James Earl Carter. James Earl came up with the fundamentalist tripartite system. And Ayn Rand was known for ideas like double fantasy, where double is there, from Atlas Shrugged, where she disappeared the prime movers and put them into a Ouspensky fourth dimension to manipulate from higher ground in the room behind the revolving bookshelf. So they offered me to trade my life for loyalty to Greta and then reneged on my life. It's typical of them. And this is their stake of a claim to moral high ground. So when you look at the way they showed, the Rolling Stones and Trump showed that they can tear your heart out with power. It comes from Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. Fountainhead, Dominic Franken would cheat on the man she loved most because it gave him so much pain that she wanted for some bizarre reason to see him destroyed. So they make it look, that's what I mean when I say they feel guilty about what they're doing. They make it look like love. Like as though love was behind the Israeli general poisoning Mackenzie Shirella. Obviously, that's absurd. And their claim that they love is just face-saving gesture from Biden, Ringo Starr, and Penis Sinfield. So what it is really is an implacable, incremental revelation of absolute evil. Tear off the mask of the people in power, you see them for what they are in the end, and then they laugh. What do you do to the least of us, you do to us all, said Weezer. I mean, Jesus. Don't give me my morbid justice. And Kirshner was a flag burner. He stole Washington Monument flag and graffitied it to death. And they burned the flag of Little Jimmy because I was a pilgrim. All the Indians say no. The black man says no. So, how do you boycott the Beatles? You see, they drill down inside your soul. That's the whole point. You have to boycott your own soul, to boycott the Beatles. And they want involuntary loyalty. They want soul slaves. It's not really all that secret that they blasted me with brainwave sonar and then called it schizophrenia. They tried to shoo me off the program altogether. So, the idea of loving your enemy or else, I guess, is behind the room behind the revolving bookshelf, by the way, involves people in the Kremlin. This is a big, weird deal that's going on. Now, who was Rosa loyal to when she came on to me? Well, she was loyal to Mick Jagger and the Beatles. The same thing was true of Jackie Onassis. You see, this was the age of House of Dolls by Kazetnik and Valley of the Dolls. And Valley signified Dealey Plaza, Death Valley, D-E-A, Death, L-E-Y, Valley, which was Hitler Reagan's concept. The Pittmans and Youssou N'Dour forced me to use inhalants because my lungs had not yet bled. And this is the game they're playing at Tacoma's community college with AIDS. Jay Inslee was behind the Department of Corrections operation. And we know it was the Department of Corrections operation involving Peter Gabriel and Wattenmaker from way back in the early 70s for a number of reasons. One, Wattenmaker was an Attica State Prison psychiatrist. For another, their PSYOP demonstrated psychological predictions. The PSYOP of corrections was the Beatles' drug use, by the way, with a follow-up attack of saying, you're to blame for all of it because Lenin said so. They had this park house where a lot of blacks were, and Survey taught me, and Ian Wattenmaker taught me the N-word. And when you listen to Genesis, Battle of Epping Forest, it says, picnic, pickaninny, picnic, the pickaninny is on the piano that Tony Banks is playing. So they were impinging on the personas learning. And they wanted to use Ryland Crary for a statement by William Burroughs. It's a sicko extreme from the White Album that they then say is more valuable than the lives they tortured because it's Hitler's laminated storyline. And the Hitlerian idea of mystery involves Hollywood. Alfred Hitchcock, Blas Sanders, Sergei Eisenstein. I've gone into this in my other research. I'm an expert in some ways. I mean, I'm one of the only people who made an issue of the fact that when Bogart talks about squeezing her harder, squeeze it harder, the light of Dracula goes on in his eyes in a completely different movie. That's the light they use for Bela Lugosi. So these are all very blasé rubes, as you can see, but they took it into Ovid. That's what COVID stands for, see COVID. Dalai Lama and Tammy Simon, T. Simon Ferrasani, impinged the idea of andropov, androgynous point of view, the searching for your soulmate, and then being cleansed of the evil of original sin, and you become amorphous and robot in eternity, no longer part of the carnal world, sexual world. They actually acted this out. And just in case Trump was tripped up, they said, oh, ha, 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 ha. It's just Penis Gabriel being an artist. So the Gaza extermination camp, it doesn't need to be elaborated. We're aware of it because of social media and the potential to humanize the planet, but they foresaw this. Elizabeth Blumenfeld was a Jewish girl who pitted me against Didi, which signified Nazism. This is very absolutism. It's fascism to be nonviolent, they say. And they make that into an ideological performance. Amnesty International signifies pacification. You must go to your death quietly because your lungs haven't yet bled. And you're forbidden to resist, or it will ignite contamination. And of course, they have Hitler's postcard as merchandise to prove that the whole thing is bigger than JFK. It should be noted that Gail Burstyn's partner, Leslie Katz, had a father named Arnold. She was Arnold's daughter. And that Arnold also liked to make a deal of um, going to work on a bicycle. So the Feast of Jagger is in Punjab.